With the 2018 college football season fast approaching, let's jump right in to our ACC conference predictions. I'm going to kick things off by just skimming over the bottom teams in the ACC. I think at 14, Virginia goes under 5. At 13, even with Eric Dungey back, I think Syracuse goes under 5.5. The middle of the ACC is going to be tough to beat. At 12, I think North Carolina goes under 5.5. I know they're a trendy bounce back team for a lot of people, but I still think this North Carolina team isn't as talented as they were when they made the ACC title game, or when Mitch Trubisky was quarterback. I think North Carolina fails to get to a bowl game. They go under 5.5. At 11, I'm going to put Wake Forest there. Dave Claus is a terrific coach, but I think the loss of quarterback John Wolford is going to be huge for Wake Forest. I'm not sure if they can get to a bowl game. Maybe they can make it, but I do think they will go under the 6.5 win mark and finish 11th in the ACC in total wins. At 10, I'm going to go with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Paul Johnson's teams always seem to bounce back after rough seasons. While they might not make it to the ACC championship game, in my estimation, as they have sometimes after bad seasons, I still like the Yellow Jackets. If you get back to a bowl game, Georgia Tech goes over 5.5. 9, I'm going to go with the Pitt Panthers. I think Pitt and Pat Narduzzi has a good defense this fall. A lot of players coming back. Kenny Pickett, they hope he's the answer at quarterback after that Miami game at the end of the year last year. I think Pittsburgh gets back to a bowl game. They're over 5.5 as well. Continuing on, I think Virginia Tech finishes 8th in the ACC. I think they go under 8.5. I don't like picking Virginia Tech this low, but they lost so many key players on that defense. And I know Bud Foster's a tremendous coach. I just have a hard time seeing, with the schedule they have, them getting 9 or more wins. And I also have my concerns about Josh Jackson. He wasn't great last season towards the end of the year. And this Virginia Tech offense isn't as good in terms of its playmakers as it was when Cam Phillips, Isaiah Ford, and Bucky Hodges were on campus. My 7th ranked team in the ACC, I'm going to go with the NC State Wolfpack, and I think they're likely to push the 7-win mark that they're set at. But if I had to pick either way, over or under, I would lean towards going over, simply because, again, you get your money back if it goes 7. So if I had to go one way, I'd say they might go over the 7, not under it. Ryan Finley's back with a couple of really good receivers to anchor the offense. They get some key offensive linemen back, but that whole defensive front is gone. And the secondary last year ranked 103rd, I believe, against the pass. That secondary's going to have to make up for those front 7 losses. I think it's going to be a rough year for NC State, but I think the offense is good enough to keep them afloat. I think 7 wins is likely, but if I had to pick one way, 8 is more likely than 6. Continuing on with the ACC, my 6th ranked team, the Duke Blue Devils. I think Duke is a good team. I think they go over the 6-win mark. They got a lot of key guys on a really good defense back. You get Ben Humphries, Joe Giles-Harris, Marcus McDuffie, and shutdown corner Mark Gilbert. The key for Duke, for me, if they're going to become an ACC coastal contender, and the schedule kind of sets up for them to have a chance of being 8-0 by the time they go to Miami in November, if they can improve a little bit offensively, it's Daniel Jones in this Duke offense. If Daniel Jones takes the next step, at times he kind of looks like a guy might be able to play in the NFL. If he turns into that guy full time, maybe Duke surprises us and makes a real run of the ACC title game. But for now, I think Duke is at 6, but they will go over the 6-win mark. My 5th ranked team in the ACC has to be the Louisville Cardinals. I think they'll go over the 7-win mark. And for me, Louisville, yes, they lost Lamar Jackson, but they kind of underachieved last season. I know the defense isn't going to be great on paper entering this year, but I feel like with 3 starting receivers back and 4 starting offensive linemen back, Bobby Petrino's going to coach up Jawan Pass, and the Cardinals are going to get it going later in the year. And I think Louisville goes over the 7-win mark. And in terms of total wins, you're not going to see a drop-off at all, really, in my mind, from last year's team that only won 8 games. Continuing on, my 4th ranked team in the ACC is the Boston College Eagles. I think Boston College goes over the 6-win mark. The reason is this offensive line returns 4 starters, and they get center John Baker back from an injury. He missed all of last year, so they basically have 5 guys who played a lot of college football. You got A.J. Dillon, one of the top backs in America, running behind that line. And you get a defense that's extremely good. I mean, they're not Clemson or Alabama, but this is a really solid unit. I think they're going to help Boston College win a lot of games. They kind of remind me a little bit of a ground and pound Wisconsin team. Maybe not as talented, but that type of football team. But last year they kind of sped up the offense a little bit. And if that trend continues, they speed it up a little bit more, that's going to help out AJ and his linemen. I think Boston College was over 6 wins, and I think there's a real chance they're 7-0 by the time Miami comes to town for a Friday night game in Chestnut Hill. That will be a fun one, especially if Boston College finds themselves in the thick of an ACC Atlantic race. My third-ranked team in the ACC, the Florida State Seminoles, I think they go over the 7.5 win mark. And the key for the Seminoles this fall is going to be the improvement of this offense, which I think will happen. The offense kind of became stale under Jimbo Fisher his last couple of years. Meanwhile, last year, Willie Taggart at Oregon, when Justin Herbert, his quarterback, was healthy, they scored over 50 points on average in all of those games. I think with DeAndre Francois and Cam Akers, who are two extraordinarily good players, especially Cam Akers, he's a superstar waiting to happen. I think Willie Taggart finds a way to get Akers the ball in creative ways. Florida State, that offense, the offensive improvements, combined with an always talented defense, I like the Seminoles over 7.5. While I'm not sure if they can win the league with Clemson being as loaded as they are, I like the Seminoles to maybe challenge Clemson if things break right, but over 7.5 for the Noles. My second-ranked team in the ACC has to be the Miami Hurricanes. The Canes get a lot of key defensive players back. Jaquan Johnson, Michael Jackson in the secondary. All three linebackers are now juniors. Joe Jackson will rush the passer. But the concern I have about Miami is Malik Rozier and the offensive line. The O-line wasn't great at times last season, and that might have been some of the reason Malik Rozier had some ups and downs. But also, if Malik Rozier can kind of just play consistently all game long and not rely on epic fourth quarter comebacks, maybe that helps the offensive line a little bit. You don't know which came first, which it had the issues first, really. But I think if Miami can straighten those two things out, there's a legitimate chance they can really compete with Clemson atop this league. But if they don't, I think second is where they'll finish. So as of now, I think Miami finishes second, but I think they go over 9.5. This is a good Miami team, folks. My top-ranked team in the ACC, you can't go wrong with the Clemson Tigers, and I think they'll go over the 11 win mark this fall. You got that defensive front with Dexter Lawrence, Cleveland Farrell, Christian Wilkins, Austin Bryant, and a bevy of 5-star recruits backing them up. You have Kendall Joseph at linebacker, Isaiah Simmons, a talented rover they want to use him at this season, Trayvon Mullen, a possible guy who's really elevating himself as a cornerback prospect. On offense, you get your left tackle, Mitch Hyatt back, Travis Etienne and T. Higgins are all playmakers at the skill positions. And then at quarterback, Kelly Bryant or Trevor Lawrence, I think they're both great options. If you go back and watch the Alabama Sugar Bowl game, Kelly Bryant struggled, but he was facing constant pressure because the offensive line couldn't stop Alabama from getting to Kelly Bryant and disrupting him. I think if the Clemson O-line takes a step forward, which I think they can, since as we mentioned, left tackle Mitch Hyatt comes back for his senior year, I think Clemson is going to be the best team in the ACC. On paper, they might be the most talented team in college football. So Clemson at 1, I think they go over 11. And my ACC prediction this year, Clemson-Miami meet in the ACC title game. And as of now, I would pick Clemson to beat Miami and win the ACC championship.